Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Million Dollar Business Podcast. And with me today, we are introducing Emerge and its founder and CEO, Damon Cagnolatti. Brother Damon, good to have you on the show with us today.
Good to be here, Steph. How's everything going?
Everything's well. I think this is going to be a very interesting show. This is a little divergence from what we normally do. You know, we talk about business here on this podcast and anything that's going to help people increase their revenue. But this particular podcast, I wanted to have you on because, as you know, I sit on the board with you, and I thought it was important for people to know what Emerge is doing. So this is I would say for me, this is a passion project. And for you, I know this is serious business because I know you're the CEO and founder of this organization. So, but let's get started just a little bit because I want people to understand who you are, right? You see that hat and that beard, he looks mild-mannered, but let me tell you people, this is a powerhouse of a brother. Let me tell you who he is. Damon is a highly educated, renowned, extensive educator with an academic background, and he's dedicated to promoting literacy and community empowerment. He has over 10 years as a professor at Cerritos College, and he brings a wealth of knowledge in teaching composition and literature, enriching academic discourse. And he approaches this by this inclusive principle of hip-hop, culture, comics, and rhetoric. Now, let me just tell you some of his accolades and his educational journey because he has an impressive educational pedigree. He has a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature from the University of California, a Master of Arts in English Composition and Rhetoric from Penn State University, and he also has a doctorate in Education and Information from University of California. As he likes to say, he's from UCLA. Okay. And he's very proud of that. Now, if you know anything about California, there's a rivalry between UCLA and USC. We're not going to get into that today, but just know there's a rivalry. And all you USC listeners and all you UCLA listeners know what that is. Well, outside of the lecture hall, outside of him being a professor, he extends his commitment to education and community engagement efforts. He serves as the education committee of 100 Black Men of Long Beach. He has the position of education chair for the NAACP in Long Beach. And not only does he do this, he wanted to take his entrepreneurial and philanthropic spirit, and he founded this organization called Emerge, Elevated Minds Embracing Righteousness and Gaining Equality. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Emerge, what it's about, how it affects the youth in California and elsewhere. And lastly, I like to say, Damon is a good friend of mine. And so we've been friends for a few years now. He's got this large bio, but I wanted to bring this awareness to Emerge. And Damon, I first want to start with you. Tell my listeners what is Emerge. And I didn't go into detail because nobody can talk to you about, like you can. And one of the things I want to say is Dr. Cagnolatti, Dr. Cag, as we call you, when you speak, I know you speak at a very high level. So for us simpletons like myself, I just want you to bring it so that we could all understand it. And I say this to my listeners because Damon, he can talk to anybody, but when he gets passionate about Emerge, he goes at a different level. So I just want you to bring it down so that we could all understand it. Go ahead, my brother.
Absolutely. I think, first of all, thank you for that amazing intro. And really, you're entirely too kind, especially with this last comment here. Here you are, you are focused on connecting big business and small business. Last time I checked, it actually did take a genius to do that because they ain't did it before like that on a successful level. So I don't know if I need to actually dumb anything down at all. I might need to actually learn a thing or two from you. I certainly need to learn a thing or two from you and your audience. So, hey, we just gonna have a conversation.
Yes, I know we are. I know we are, but we always laugh about that. Not
Right.
only you, I got some other friends that sometimes I'm like, we all look at each other and go, "What did he just say?" Yeah, just your brain operates at a higher level, and it's amazing when you have friends like that how much you can learn. And so that's why I surround myself with people like yourself. That
100%.
because it'll raise, iron can sharpen iron, iron can't sharpen butter, so it just
That's
can't.
right.
So let's talk
And
about
would
emerge. Tell me how you got this thing started.
Absolutely. So really the history of Emerge, there's a lengthy history that is tied to Emerge, which starts out in the community and it's sparked by students around 2001 at King Drew Medical Magnet High School, which is located kind of on the borderland between Los Angeles City, Compton, and Watts. There's a high school there called King Drew Medical Magnet, and that's exactly where Emerge has its roots. That's where it was birthed from. A group of students. This was in the class before myself. So the first group of young students, they really just wanted to take control over their education. They felt like they were not being heard. Their voices weren't being recognized in terms of what they wanted to learn about, how they wanted to engage with the material, and really just how they wanted to connect with teachers. But fortunately enough, one teacher in particular stood out to these young folks, and they were all moved by hip hop and learning about the things that were going on around in the surrounding neighborhoods, the social issues that were going on, and they could see it, but they didn't really have a language to talk about it. And so Emerge was actually the brainchild of a group of young folks who wanted to really take control of their learning and who had a teacher who advocated for them and really kind of guided and facilitated their re-education, their education for the world. And the acronym itself, Elevated Minds Embracing Righteousness and Gaining Equality, really stamps the mission and the purpose of Emerge in its own name. And it was also something that was created by students. If I'm fast forwarding a little bit, the following year, myself, a bunch of friends of mine who had a chance to actually take part in some of the community service activities that the first iteration, the first group was putting on, we were inspired to join Emerge. So we did just that. But then we actually took it to another level once we graduated from college. Many of us took the seeds that were planted
Right.
um, and during that time, and we started up Emerge organizations and Emerge chapters as student groups at the various colleges that we went to: UC Riverside, Stanford, Cal State LA, even Long Beach, and several other universities as well. Fast forwarding a little bit more down the line. Well, one brief story that I'll actually share with you. We had a great run while we were at UC Riverside. We made a lot of impact just in terms of providing access to food and clothing for youth who are around the in the Riverside area. The only problem was that during the summertime, we did all of that during the school year. The only problem was that during the summertime, well, the financial aid checks ran out. We didn't have anything more. We had to go out and find jobs. So,
Okay.
so my best friend and I, we said, man, you know what? Hey, wouldn't it be great if we actually started this up as like a nonprofit, or, just we're able to hire on some student workers so that way they wouldn't have to worry about trying to find jobs in between, the semesters. So we let that kind of just sit and simmer. We went off and I went to Penn State, went and did a master's degree out there, came back in 2020. My friend and I, we reconnected and we said, yo, let's start that idea again. And so in 2020, we established ourselves as a 501c3. And it was really kind of a bitter and a sweet story all in one. My best friend, his name is DeAndre Rolls. He used to work for LA County. He was a behavioral technician. He would go into the homes of children who were systems impacted, and he would help them to develop a behavioral plan, a behavioral improvement plan.
Okay.
Um, and his life's work was all about community. He was very much so deeply rooted in the community. Unfortunately, around 2020, some of you all might remember that we had a major pandemic which impacted the lives of so many people. It impacted business, it impacted schools. Our world was turned upside down.
Right.
And a lot of folks ended up actually losing their lives to COVID. And he unfortunately was one of those individuals. In fact, a week after we had gotten a partnership with through a local Los Angeles County funded project called Fostering Youth Resiliency. And this was a 3-year project where we were tasked and took on as a part of our own mission the activity or excuse me, the purpose, the mission, and the drive to pair young Black boys specifically, which was a part of this project, in foster youth, in foster care between the ages of 11 to 18 with mentors. Um, the goal was to try to reduce the amount of behavioral referrals, some of the same things that my best friend DeAndre was actually doing. The goal was to actually reduce it. I think at the time they were hovering around 45%, and I think by the time that we had wrapped it up, we had made a bit of an impact. But there's still more studying that needs to actually be done about that. But unfortunately, he passed away a week after we had gotten the contract, and he was never able to see that dream come through to fruition, at least on this side. But I believe that, beyond here, somewhere else, he's looking over us and he's actually guiding us, and he's guided our steps all the way through this point. We've been active for 4 years
Good.
and
Good.
thriving.
So it was kind of a bittersweet milestone that you reached at the same time. So I'm sorry to hear that. But now I know as being the CEO and founder of Emerge, and how have you found it to be so far? I mean, is it a difficult role, would you say?
It's not difficult. The problems that we get encountered with aren't necessarily difficult. What is difficult is the time in which we have to problem solve. I
Okay.
think one of the things that I've discovered about being in this particular role, I think of myself really first and foremost as a steward, really a servant of the community. Some of the ideas that kind of inform just that particular position for me dates all the way back to folks like Carter G. Woodson, who advocates for really service rather than leadership. So I really see my place in this position as CEO of Emerge as one that provides a service to the community, and really one that provides a service to our staff and to our team. The most difficult aspect of this particular experience for me has been problem solving on a time crunch. I think part of the struggles of being a CEO, and this is what I've been learning just as a part of this journey, is really timing, not so much really the scale of the problem, timing and scale really, and then execution. One thing that I can say about myself is I've been able to see my way through these challenges because one thing that I can do is execute. Whatever it is, we're going to make sure to actually follow through and get the job done and get it done within the time frame that it needs to actually be finished in. So it hasn't really been terribly difficult. One challenge that I will actually say exists outside of me being a CEO, and that's with the youth in particular, and also with mentors. So our organization provides mentors for young boys all throughout the greater Los Angeles community. And with a lot of our youth there who are in foster care, they really have a it's a difficult time, like, finding stability.
Okay.
And so because they're shifting constantly, either from house to house, or because the situations may actually switch or change, right? One year they might actually go to this school, the next they may have to actually move because of the changing demographics of the economic landscape in Los Angeles, particularly around housing.
Right.
That shifts their entire focus, that shifts their entire availability. And so in a lot of ways, right, it's a struggle for us to keep track of where our youth is if they're in crisis.
Okay.
So that's one of the challenges. And then on the mentor side, it's very similar too as well. Sometimes the availability of the mentor has to shift. We're talking about people who also have 9 to 5s, and
Right.
so trying to find a work-life balance between mentoring, being a husband or being a family man, and also too working can be a little bit difficult.
Now let me ask you something. I had a bunch of questions about education, but we've gone into an area that I think that the audience would appreciate. So now you've been an educator your whole life, right? And so
Yes.
now you're the CEO.
Yeah.
How are you finding that transition? How are you finding, that's why I asked you, was it difficult? But how are you finding it personally? How's that change for you? Because it's one thing being an educator, it's another thing running a business because you're running a business. And when we say nonprofit, people think that they're not trying to make money. That's not it. Um,
Right.
they they have to make money, right?
Yeah.
So how do you find that? Just talk about you for a moment,
Yeah.
not the organization, but you for a moment. How is it making that transformation?
Well, that transition that has been a little steep. That's why when you said earlier, we got to have this conversation. I found out that I wasn't that smart. I found out I wasn't that smart. All those accolades and stuff, that's cool. But no, I think making that transition has definitely been one. Really, there's a space and a lane of time that I was afforded, I believe, from the pandemic, or just really in that time space, to kind of close down the gap on how to be a CEO. Really, I think that transition for me has been just one where it's actually something that's very familiar to me. It's put me back in the space of being a learner. Uh,
Okay.
Hence why I've learned that I'm not that smart
Right.
because I surround myself by folks like you and others who have just a wealth of business acumen and also a wealth of experience, triumphs and struggles that you're able to share with me to that helps to guide me through a lot of these decisions. You mentioned something earlier that is just it goes without thinking now for me, but yeah, just because we want a nonprofit doesn't mean that we're not interested in making money. We have to, because this is the part about service that I was referring to earlier. Because of who we serve youth who need access to resources. In particular, they
That's
need
right.
access to workshops, right, so on and so
Right.
forth. So I think for me that has actually been one of the major struggles, is trying to think creatively about how to create, not to find, but to create and build from the ground up revenue streams or revenue producing ideas. That's been a switch that I've had to actually learn how to turn on and on. It's been a little bit like a stubborn light switch. Sometimes it comes on, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that I have a great community and a wonderful board who helps to provide that guidance for me, and who also helps to provide a lot of those insights and ideas. The other component has been trying to build and maintain organizational structure, and then trying to develop organizational culture. The structure, I wasn't so much that wasn't so difficult for me. That's putting pen to paper and writing it down, just kind of brainstorming ideas,
Sure. Sure.
bringing that idea on paper to life, right? Giving it bones and muscles, and making it kind of breathe and come alive. That's been the struggle. And I think the biggest struggle has been to try to motivate and find different ways to spark that same passion that I actually have in myself for my other team. Now you weren't lying at all when you say that when I get to talking about Emerge, that fire and that passion actually ends up sparking. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. And part of the issue, and I wouldn't say issue, is as business owners, and you're a business owner, to get the team to have the same passion that you have for the business is very different. And
yeah,
you mentioned that important thing of culture. A lot of people don't understand, or business owners, like a lot of business owners sometimes are subject matter experts, right? Then they go into business, but they don't understand that they have to create a culture. Um, I recently had a conversation with someone, and that person said to me, they work for a different company now. They said they were glad to leave their former employer because of the culture. I learned a lot,
Mhm.
but she said the culture held me back. It was really it's a small business, and they said it was about the owners. It wasn't about the employees. He said, I'm in a company now that I'm able to grow. And so she said, even though I had a good time, she says, I learned a lot from them. She goes, the culture was not good. Right. And so, and a lot of times when you go to Glassdoor and other places, people will start to talk about the culture. And culture is important. If you want long term employees that believe in your vision, you have to create a culture where people like to be there, they want to be part of it, and they're excited about what you're doing, right? And what you're doing is helping community, right? And so tell me, as you help the community, as Emerge is coming out and doing things, can you talk about some of the initiatives that been undertaken by Emerge that addresses these educational disparities, or do you have some? I'd like to hear some success stories and some outcomes. I think the
Oh,
audience would love to hear that. Like, okay, yeah, you're a nonprofit, but what are you really doing? What have you done? What's the success coming from?
yeah, the successes actually come from the small everyday victories that we have with a lot of our young folks,
Sure.
because we cater to young folks between the ages of 11 to 18 plus now. So we kind of we cover folks even after they turn 18. They reach what they call transition age. And some of them go off into college, some of them go off into community college. A lot of our successes come from the little small everyday victories. For example, there's one young man who stays with his grandmother, and we ended up having one of our family movie nights. So I invite him and his family, his foster family. They come on out, and just so that way they can enjoy a good time. I think we went to go see Spider-Man, Into the
Okay.
Spider-Verse or so like that. Well, it just so happens he wanted to actually stick close to me that day, and so I'm trying to hand out tickets for everybody who's coming on in at the front gate. Right here, you go on down. Right, I'm directing traffic. Well, I'm striking up a conversation with one of the attendants at the front who works for the theater, and we just end up striking up a great, just kind of rapport. And he looks over at the young man who comes up to me and he says, "So, Tariq, is this you?" Tariq is looking at him. He's like, "Yo." It's interesting just because that moment for him, Tariq, our young person, was so significant because that's his cousin. The attendant was his cousin. They had just gotten reunited after years of being apart and not actually seeing each other for ever since our young man had actually gone into the foster care system. Well, the reason why this is just a success story, why I count it as a success story, is one, because one of the major issues in foster care, especially for Black boys in foster care, is getting them reunited with their family. They don't oftentimes get reunited with their family, but even more so than that, we were able to parlay just that reunion right there. Matter of fact, about a week later, we were able to parlay that into this young man here getting a job. So now he's working for a movie theater, and he has a little bit of an experience, right? He's exposed to some
Right.
work life experience before he's even out of high school. We've had a few different stories like that actually come up. Also, too, where some of our young people, uh, like the oldest of three, have gone on to actually, we've helped them to actually apply for financial aid and scholarships. Many of them have actually gone on to four-year universities. In fact, in one in particular, we have up at San Jose State University. He's really the leader of his little brothers. There's about three of them. He's leading them all in trying to pursue his bachelor's degree. He was the first one that we actually got into a 4-year school just from being involved in our program. So the thing that actually ties these young men here all together, what they all share in terms of an experience, is our empowerment workshops. These are all young men who are on a leadership development track where we expose them to some of the keys and codes of success and also leadership. We pair them with a mentor, and every third Saturday, we make sure that those mentors have a chance to lock in with these young folks. And we also expose them to different kinds of workshop opportunities, different speakers. Business owners come down and talk to them about professionalism. And they also get to learn how to apply to college, which is one of the major features, one of the major accomplishments of the actual program itself.
Okay, great. That sounds like, and you just mentioned something. Some business people that come down and talk to them. So I'm sure you could use something like that. And we'll talk about that a little later on, because I want my listeners to understand, and those who are listening for the first time to understand how they can get involved with Emerge. So, Damon, I'm listening to you, and I thought I was busy, right? But I can see you're a little busy, my brother. You're an educator, community activist, entrepreneur. Tell the listeners, especially your business owners, how do you employ strategies to make sure that you are effective in each area? What is your strategy? Just give us a brief summary of what's your strategy, because I know sometimes I'm working during the week, I'm working on weekends. What do you do? What's your strategies to you? Because I don't think they want to use my strategies, because I work too much. So.
I think I try to keep my strategy as simple as possible, because simple is effective. I'm a list guy. I love to make my lists. I utilize my tools. I exercise my assets. Really, Monday is a program that I actually use that helps to keep me organized all day long. Everything starts from handheld list, though. I was born in the decade, or I was born in the century that has a 1 in it. So I'm still a pen and paper kind of guy. I start off with lists. That list actually grows into my Monday, which is my larger web cluster. I send that out to the team, and I'm heavy on the grind on Mondays and Tuesdays, just sending out messages to my team.
Okay.
I think really the team is how I'm so successful, because I had to learn how to delegate at an early stage in this journey for myself.
Okay. All right. So you use your team, use lists. When you say Monday, are you using Monday.com? Is it
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Monday.com? Because I
Yeah.
use Monday.com. We are here at a $1 Million Business Podcast. We use Monday.com to designate and to give out tasks, because this
Yep.
way you can see how things are being done. So that's good. So the one thing I do want to ask you, and since you're an educator, and this comes up from time to time, because I know I use AI in a lot of the things that I do. How do you see technology being used in education in the future? What's your honest opinion of how you think it's going? What do you? Because I saw something I don't know if it was TikTok or something I saw the other day. You get news from so many different places now. I don't remember where there's some school where AI is just teaching the whole school, the whole class. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. What do you feel? What's your feelings on AI and technology in the classroom?
Well, I think of AI as just another tool, really, to be honest with you.
Okay.
In the classroom, AI has to there are two positions that folks occupy in education, at least in the academic discourse right now. Some folks are completely anti. I'm not. I think that AI is a tool that we're going to have to um, learn how to integrate into the classroom. I feel like it works better, and I have yet to actually introduce a lesson on
Okay.
AI for my
Right.
students. But I'm slowly gathering all of my materials and trying to craft this lesson right now as we speak. It's funny because I was just giving some recommendations to a friend of mine who teaches out at Rutgers University about AI. So for me, I want to introduce AI as an amazing tool that can help
Right.
to at least generate ideas for students if they're writing papers, if they're trying to put together, ideas for projects. It's an amazing tool in that way. Similar to Wikipedia. It's a great reference tool, right? That you could go to. That should not
Sure.
be the source, or that should not be the central hub from which all the ideas that show up in your final presentation, that shouldn't be where they derive. So for me, um, I'm really big on process, and I'm really big on what's called the iterative process. So, development and success comes in small iterations, right? Small pockets of success that get built over time. The thing that I want to see from my students is not so much, you only use this set of tools and not these over here. No, let's, the world is our oyster. Let's try to draw from everything
Sure,
that we can,
sure.
and let's begin to implement it to see how it is that over time you can improve on yourself until you hit your big target date. And in that sense, education and business, we share some similarities, right? Especially if we're trying to develop if we have a launch date for a new product. There's an iterative process, right? An alpha testing, a beta testing that things have to actually go through before we actually launch. And that's really what the project, or at least the assignment, in class is kind of driven or modeled after. So I see AI as a great tool.
Yeah, I do too. We use it here a lot. I just think I think it's one of the most powerful tools that we have. I don't see it replacing anybody,
Right. Yeah.
because you still
Yeah.
got to feed it information.
Yep.
I just think it's one of those tools that just makes life a lot easier. It's like the internet to me. The internet made life easier. It didn't replace anybody. It just made life easier. So yeah, I agree with you on that. So now, as people are listening about emerge, if I'm just a average listener,
Yeah.
I came on here and I was like, oh, I like what Dr. Cag got to say about his organization. How do they get involved with emerge? How would one get involved?
So it's very straightforward. All you have to do is just go to our website, really emergelosangeles.org. You can take a look at our website, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you'll see you can begin to apply to become a mentor. Really, mentorship is the number one thing that, mentorship, of course, right, and also to donations. Those are the lifeblood. That's the lifeblood of any, especially nonprofit organization. But that's the lifeblood of just about any organization. Both of which can actually be found right on our website. But the major thing that we need, I believe, are mentors and also to donors.
And I just want to. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, 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 it's okay.
You mentioned that before that business owners and business people, you want them to come in and speak to your.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's where the mentorship actually comes into play at. If you go down to the bottom of the website, you sign up to become a mentor, and you want to actually become, or you want to get involved with speaking engagements, or even if you're available over Zoom, if you're not in the state, if you're not, even if you're outside of the country, you're on business, it's very easy for folks to actually sign right on up and just become a mentor and just select which particular role it is that you would like to play. Would you like to be involved with this youth for a long term? Are you available for speakership or anything like that? That's all available on our website. That's the best way.
And Damon, don't we have a big event coming up at the end of this month?
We sure do. As a matter of fact, we have our sneaker design and date. If I can, I'd like to share a
Please,
little bit about
please,
this with your
please,
audience.
please. Yeah, I would. I
Man,
would. That's why I asked the question. Sure.
So this is our first fundraiser that we're offering here in Emerge, and the sneaker design and date. The idea of it actually springs from just a very interesting, creative kind of conversation that I was having with my team. We wanted to try to find out, hey, what are some ways that we can get some folks to come on out and to learn more about the organization, but also still have fun and still, have a great time. So we created this idea of the design and date, really modeled after the sip and paint idea, but we wanted to do it a little differently. So we've invited people on out to come and customize and custom design their own sneakers. We have a great relationship, a great working relationship with our partners at Puma, who were so gracious and kind to donate just a bunch of sneakers for us for this particular idea. And really, we want you all to come on out, have some time with your loved ones, spend some time with your loved ones, and just create some very unique one of ones. You want to, a part of what we really like to do is create experiences where you can actually share with your loved ones, because oftentimes whenever there's businesses, especially if they're fundraisers that are, kind of going on, they don't often make spaces for both partners to be in the same place, to have a great time together and to create a really memorable experience outside of the fact of, hey, yeah, we went to X gala and then we donated something. Well, we wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. Come on down with us, enjoy some good food, some good wine, some good entertainment, and then come and design some very unique one-of-ones to create a memorable experience for you and your partner to actually leave with. And you can learn more about our organization.
So once again, that's on the website, correct? We can go to the website and get that
Yes.
information. Okay.
Yes.
And we're going to, when we edit this, we're going to put the website at the bottom so people can know when they're watching. And let's say that website one more time. So if you're listening, because sometimes people watch this as a video podcast, but sometimes they listen to it on their car. And my listeners, I appreciate however you listen to us. It doesn't matter to me. What's the website again?
emergelosangeles.org. It's all one word, emergelosangeles.org.
Okay, so that's what it is. And please, if you can contribute and you can help us out, we would really be appreciative. So, Damon, I have two more questions for you. One kind of a fun question, another one kind of serious. Now, if I was starting off, if I'm a young person, or if I'm aspiring educator or community leader who's positive, who wants to make a positive impact on community, what advice would you give them? What advice would you tell them if they want to make a positive impact on community? What would you say?
I would say first and foremost, find the need in your own community. Trust your instincts, what it is that you're observing. If you have inclinations where you're like, I'm seeing something going on in my community and that's not right, go learn more about that. Really, I think that if you're a business person, or if you're starting out in business, and or even if you're starting out in, just whatever creative field it is that you're looking to get into, it starts with curiosity and it starts with passion. It starts with learning. There's
Right,
a book called The Ikigai, right? And it talks a little bit about having the mindset of the beginner. And really, that's where I would actually start. That's the advice that I would give them. Start right where, with your own neighborhood. Look to see where the needs are. Look to see where you can actually fill in some gaps and see where that might match up with your passions.
right. And I think what's also important is, and you just mentioned it, is passion. If you have passion, you're only going to be successful, because
Yeah.
passion inspires you to move and to research and to look and to see. And so, yes, I definitely think it's important to have that. Now, here's my last question, and this is a question we ask everybody. Now that you have survived the $1 Million Business Podcast, it wasn't that bad, right? See, um, you see on the show, who would you recommend that we have on the show that can be informative to the listeners? We ask everybody this, and why. And if you can, if you know them, if you recommend someone, we ask you to help us get them on the show.
So there's one person in particular who comes to mind, and he's been a great mentor for me. Jay Brown. He's the former president of Rock Nation. And he's somebody who has, I mean, you talk about just a wealth of wisdom and just guidance and experience of decades of business experience in developing successful brands. He's the reason why we know exactly who Rihanna is to this day. I would certainly recommend that he come on this podcast and, just be willing to actually talk to a lot of the folks who are your listening audience, and people who are interested in getting into business, maybe even starting out the gate as a first-time business owner.
Okay, all right,
Sure.
Jay Brown. And so, can you help us get him on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I can sure try.
Okay, all right. I think that would be great, because we always want to leave our audience with something that they've learned, and I hope today they've learned a lot about you, Damon, and the Emerge organization. I'm so proud of you. I've known you for years. You got this thing up and running. As a first-time entrepreneur, CEO, running an organization, I'm sure as all of us, you've made some mistakes, but that's okay. We all make mistakes, but you're doing a fantastic job. So it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. If you ever want to come back and want to talk about some other things, the show is always open up to you. And once again, to my audience, I want you to go to the Emerge website. We're going to post it up again and see what they have in store. And if you can donate your time, and you can do it over Zoom. And I know a lot of the people on this podcast have a lot. I know some of the listeners personally, and I know you got some good things to say. You're titans of industry. So please, if you could, lend your story to the Emerge organization. Well, once again, to all listeners, thank you for listening to us. We want you to like, share, comment. That helps the algorithm for us. It increases us as we move on and on. We want you to go to our website, which is the $1,000,000businesspodcast.com. You will see who we have coming up, some of our past guests. Want to thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Stefan Montgomery, and you have experienced the $1 Million Business Podcast.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. The information we discussed today was just that, information only. It is not specific advice. If you take action following something you heard today, it is important to make sure you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or if there's another topic you would like to see explored. And if you know someone who might benefit from the show, remember to tell them about us. You can find the $1 Million Business Podcast on all podcast platforms or our visual podcast on YouTube. Thank you for viewing and listening.